but I bought it when I was in Nashville because I used to have a Gibson.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah.
I went to their warehouse and I couldn't resist.
That's great. Well, it's great to see you. And boy, I mean, so much happening.
It is.
So
It
much.
is.
I'm watching this. I'm watching this pool toy float across the skies of America. This Chinese
Yes.
pool toy.
Oh, wow. There is so much happening right now that
Yeah.
if people are beginning to see it. I've been focused this morning on sort of a twist in the tail for me, which is the King of Thailand.
Yeah. Yeah. I've actually been aware of that for quite some time.
Yes.
And the princess,
Yes.
who is a really, really beloved princess. She's really very well liked, very well thought of, and has not been out in public in quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of the impacts, really, what they're now publicly saying is the caused by the vaccine.
Yep.
And so anyway, it's very devastating. I forget the gentleman's name. It's a name that I probably would butcher anyways pronouncing.
Dr. Bhakti.
Yes, Dr. Bhakti, and Dr. Bhakti has come out, and it looks like they're going to cancel all of their contracts and such. The government is, and I actually think that this is one of those moments globally where, obviously the media is not going to talk about it. The media here in the United States, the media in Europe will likely not talk about it. They certainly won't talk about it in the way that it is actually playing out. But one of the disadvantages and one of the advantages that we all have is the internet. And the internet is going to shows like yourself, Charlie. You got a gigantic audience and a wonderful audience, and we just have to expose these types of things because it's more than just an NFL ball player collapsing during a game, which was a big enough deal, and of course the media made it sound like, oh, he's just got hit hard. He's that poor man's not going to be back in the NFL playing anymore. And this beautiful princess, this beautiful young princess, is her life is now, it's sad. It's just sad. So
it is. She's in a coma, and also you're absolutely right that the king has now set about making the agreement null and void, but on the basis that they were blatantly lied to. Now he's also got an extra ammunition because in the United Kingdom, Dr. Borla, who's the CEO of Pfizer, has been found guilty of lying to the British people. Right. And so we now have the United Kingdom. We also have Thailand, where they're being exposed for blatantly lying and knowing that that it hadn't been tested, hadn't gone through the proper testing, and they're between a rock and a very hard place at the moment. It'll be very interesting to see how it plays out because when you've got big tech, big pharma, and mainstream media or corporate media all working together, they'll come up with some way to try and defend themselves. We've seen it time and time again. And you're absolutely right. There's nothing in mainstream media or corporate media in the UK that points out that Dr. Albert Bourla lost his case in the UK. And yet Harold Shipman, who killed a dozen people as a doctor, he was on every single paper in the United Kingdom years ago for killing a dozen people as a doctor. And yet
we're talking millions, Charlie.
Exactly.
Let me talk to your audience a bit because and you too, because I've never really talked about this, but because we started off talking about the princess of Thailand. I had when I was younger, I was actually in third grade, and I had a sister, my oldest sister. I'm one of 9 children. Mm-hmm. My oldest sister was Lenny, was her name. Her actual God-given name was Helen, but we called her Lenny. And she was in a terrible car accident, and she was in a coma for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And she subsequently died of that coma. And that period of time, so I'm trying to create a metaphor for what I knew and what I learned, my experiences as a young person, but those memories are being brought back now. So this princess who was beloved, as my sister was beloved in our family, she was sort of a second mother to those of us who were young. This princess is like that to this country, and you go through while she's in a coma. Everybody is praying. Everybody is hoping that her situation changes and she comes out of it. And so I like we did with my sister, we had great hope for that period of time that maybe some miracle will occur and she'll revive her. She'll be revived and she'll be okay and she'll live again and have a beautiful life. And be able to continue to be the type of person that she was. But she was a wonderful, just gifted person, gifted older sister, and a gifted person in her own right, as this princess is or was. So I think that for now, the people, and they're hearing all this stuff now through their own government about the vaccine and what they're going to do with some of the steps that they're taking, the measures that they're taking. But there is going to come a moment in time if this princess doesn't come out of this. And because a coma can be devastating to the body, to the physical body, not only the mental body, but the physical body. And if she doesn't come out of this and returns to a normal life and is able to rise above all this, and I pray that that's the case, there will then be, as there was in my family, a sense of anger and a sense of retribution, if you will, or consequence. And of course, my family, we went after those who caused her accident. And in my sister's case, the cause of the accident was the very state itself. It was a I won't get into the details, but it was essentially an arm of the state that caused the accident of my sister. And so just like it is an element or a component of the state buying into something that they knew probably was not right. And there was others, and the consequences and what they're going to learn is there's a lot of money to be made. And so the consequences are devastating, and there will be an anger. And what I would rather see the nation of Thailand do is take that and then channel that back to the entirety of the globe, and let us live this experience, and let us take what they are living and what they are experiencing, and let's turn it back onto something very positive for the rest of the world, and make it very public there, Thailand, right? Because you're going to have listeners who are you have listeners from all over the world, but you're going to have listeners, and I want this to be turned into a very positive thing, because we have got to send this message home, just as you just said about what Great Britain was lied to, right? And we can't have this gigantic deception, this gigantic lie, and as the doctor said. I think he said that that COVID was a lie, that the whole thing was a lie. So anyway, I wanted to say that because as we were talking about this, I started thinking about my own sister in a coma. And I think that there's a lot there to be said about, you are hopeful for a period of time. And then once the end comes, then there's another emotion that kicks in, and that emotion will be anger. And what we have to do is we have to turn that anger into a very a focus, if you will, a very laser focus to do something more positive, not just for the citizens of Thailand, but really for the citizens of the world.
Well, I lived in Thailand for about a year, a few years back now, and they are amazing people. I was there during the tsunami, and the amount of loss of life. They're very resilient people, but they're very, very spiritual people. Their Buddhist history and the way that they think and the way that they are, they're incredible people. But they will come together on this one, and we need to learn from them on how to handle situations like this, because they are very strong, and they will make sure this time, I'm sure, that they'll make sure that people are aware of what's happened. And the fact,
absolutely.
And that is so important that we learn something from it. Very often, yes, we do. We all go through that angry phase. And that needs to be managed, because, yes, it's absolutely right to get angry, but we need to deal with it in a manner that's professional. We don't want to drop to their levels, because they're evil people, and you can't cure evil with evil. You can only counter it with good. And that's what hurts evil even more. And we see that when we're on tour, don't we? The amount of the positive people at these the reawakening tour. I mean, it's incredible. You and I went outside, didn't we? And
we stood there for a couple hours with large groups of people and coming outside, and and you get you sign autographs, you take pictures, a lot of hugs, a lot of love, a lot of joy, a lot of hope, and actually they look at guys like you and I, and because they know the platforms that we're privileged to have because of them, and they give us encouragement. I actually am very encouraged on these Reawaken America events because I get a lot of encouragement from people saying, you're doing the right thing, get out there and keep fighting, and please never give up, because we're never going to give up on you.
Sure. And I said it at one of my speeches that you've been a wonderful role model to me. And the fact you've been with your wife since you were at school, pretty much. You've got exactly. You're a man of honor. You've been abused by the system, and you've held your head up when a lot of people would have dropped theirs. And I'm sure you, deep in your heart, you've had some really dark days when they were attacking you and your family. But I look at you, I'm proud to call you a friend.
I appreciate it, Charlie. Yeah, and we've had sort of off-camera discussions about some of this stuff, and but I think that part of it is my military training, maybe. I think a lot has to do with my upbringing in the tough Irish family that I was brought up in.
Yeah.
There was no quarters for any of my brothers and sisters who complained, especially by my father. My mother was tough in her own right too, but we grew up in a very, very small house and in a very good family, a very loving family, but a very determined family. And then, of course, I go into the military, and I think that the military, it actually, in many of the things that I've seen and experienced in my years of service, been on 6 continents, and I've seen, I've seen the darkness in humanity. I absolutely have. I've been to places and seen things that are unimaginable for any human, and I don't want anybody to have to live some of the things that I've seen. And frankly, but I also understand the real sense of tragedy in loss when you see. I just talked about my sister, but you see loss of life on the battlefield of primarily young men, primarily 18, 19-year-old kids, 20-year-old kids, and soldiers, Marines, Navy, Air Force, whatever the services, and other allied partners. I've seen a lot of British who were killed, and especially in Afghanistan. And when I see that, I know them when I look at them, and some I would get to know, maybe others I did not, but I knew what type of people that they were, and they had families. They had, some cases they had their own. They had babies, children of their own, right? They had wives. They had moms, dads, aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas, and yet they were there to sacrifice for something greater than anybody can imagine. Anyone can imagine. Even them, even those young people that do that for the greater good of all of us, they don't necessarily know that they're going to join the army and it's join the army and see the world, or join the Navy and see the world. They really don't know until they get into that sort of moment of madness where suddenly the sense of fear kicks in, and now it's really about giving your life for one's country. Mm-hmm. And that's what people do when they join the military. And I appreciate what you've said, and I appreciate what I have been honored to be part of. And I just am one of these people that I know exactly what it is that we're up against. I faced it, I've lived it, and now I have sort of come out of the valley of the shadow of death because I knew that it's in the biblical terms, thou art with me, right? Mm-hmm. And I was able to take that idea, that notion, that biblical phrase, and I totally believed in it. And I went for the light instead of for the darkness, because the darkness can be not just turning into a person filled with hate, but actually it turned me into what I absolutely believe that I was, raised to be, which is a person of love and compassion and passion, and I want to bring that to as many people as possible around the world, certainly in the United States of America. But I want to do it in a way, Charlie, as we've also discussed. I want to do it in a way we must be filled with determination and discipline and strength and courage, and a desire to make things better. And in order to maintain liberty, liberty comes with sacrifice, right? To keep our liberty, to keep our freedom, it requires sacrifice. In some cases, great sacrifice, as I just described. Those who have given their lives on the battlefields of history, they've sacrificed for all of us, for our freedom. So as we go forward with the Reawaken America tour, we're getting ready to come into Mar-a-Lago, or not, I'm sorry, not Mar-a-Lago, but Trump Doral down in Miami. Yeah. And one of the things that we talked about, Clay Clark and I have talked about, is the one that we're going to do in Las Vegas. We're going to be out at in Las Vegas in August. Of course, it's like being on the sun in Las Vegas in August, right? So we're going to actually call this Reawaken America Reverse Davos. So this is going to be the Reverse Davos Reawaken America tour event in Las Vegas. And we want everybody to come with their carbon footprints. We're going to have, when we do a meet and greet, it's going to be spelled MEAT, because we're going to eat real meat. Yeah. We're going to have various contests. We're going to have a contest who can sound like Klaus Schwab the best and tell a few Klaus Schwab jokes. We're going to have some contests out there to make fun and to pull some fun at the Davos crowd, the World Economic Forum crowd. And we're actually going to call it Reawaken America Reverse Davos, because and to even make it even more of a reversal, we're going to have it at night. We're going to do it from 5 o'clock at night to probably 11, 12 o'clock at night, because that's how that city sleeps, right?
Yep.
We're going to have a lot of fun going forward with these, and I really look forward to continuing our relationship.
And these tours are so important because you get so many people that come together, and a lot of people at the moment are feeling lonely and feeling that they haven't got people they can connect with. I know that from every single tour I've been to, the feeling of togetherness, and they've found other people like-minded, is huge, and it gives everybody such a lift. Clay Clark has also focused on standing up against this central bank digital currency that has been brought in by them. If I go back 3 years ago, this is where I started. I told everybody that they were going to shut down the world's economy for a global financial reset. I was unaware of how they were going to do it. I've tried to watch it and monitor it. I was unaware that there was two resets in play. There's a good one and a bad one. And you're right about our freedoms. They're a God-given right, but we have to stand up for our rights.
Yeah, we do. And, it's interesting. I'm looking at one. So inside the United States, because I know your audience is a big international audience, but I want people to understand is inside the United States, there are some state legislatures who are now putting into state law, and they're running it up their proverbial flagpole to their state level legislatures, like a province in some countries, but our states, and it's basically to deny or a better word is to make sure that every American in their state has options for how they want to use their finances, right? Mm-hmm. Because the central bank digital currency, according to the World Economic Forum and the World Bank, as they are in cahoots with the World Bank, they're talking about, and people can go to quantum technology and MIT. MIT is already in the process of creating a digital, something that's about yay big, goes under the skin, and it's essentially a digital credit card, if you will. Mm-hmm. In the United States of America, and people can look it up, we have something called an executive order that the President of the United States signs. So we have Executive Order 14067. I'll say that again, Executive Order 14067. You can type that into a search engine and read it, and it's a very dangerous thing in terms of this global reset, and particularly the financial reset. So that order was signed by I call him Uncle Joe. He was signed by Uncle Joe on the 8th of March of 2022, and it went into effect on the 13th of December of 2022, so just last year. And there's already some beta testing between governmental agencies and some private woke corporations testing this central bank digital currency, this new form of digital currency. It's ongoing right now. One of the outcomes of it will be they'll learn some lessons, and then they're going to begin to impose this new form of digitization for our currency. And you actually have been at the forefront of a lot of this, and you've talked a lot about it. This is an area of expertise that I think you have a lot of time in and your own background. And I think that people need to understand that the fiat currencies that we have in the world, you know, the yuan or the US dollar or the British pound or the real. I mean, there's different. The ruble is another one. These different currencies that exist. Those are fiat currencies that, as it really, after about World War II, the United States dollar became the currency of choice for global trade. It was the British sterling for a long time because, you know, the British, you know, they remember the British Empire, the sun never set on it, right? So they were able to impose a currency. Well, now fast forward post World War II to the early 1970s, and President Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard, and we created, you know, the Federal Reserve, which is not a reserve and not federal, and here we are. So I do believe, Charlie, that in this year, 2023 is a very pivotal year for the Great Reset, because I don't believe that they cannot, as much as their imaginations are really incredibly dangerous looking forward and what they want to do. As Karl von Clausewitz, a very famous military theorist, you know, fought in many battles in Europe in the last few centuries ago, he described something called the fog of war. Okay, the fog of war. And I do want to talk about my newest book, this fifth generation warfare. But the fog of war is something that is very real, Charlie, and to your audience. And it's very difficult to see the end state of warfare. You just know that you're going to have adversaries coming together, and you just don't know what the outcome is going to be. And there's been in history, there's been many adversaries who have been much smaller in terms of the size of their force, much less capable in terms of the type of weapon systems, up against a much larger force, and they won. The American Revolution is a perfect example of that, beating the best army and the best navy in the world by a bunch of really, sort of a ragtag militia. So here we are in 2023, and I believe that they need to speed this process up. I believe that they feel, and back to our discussion about the Thai princess, they're seeing their plan unravel. Okay, it is unraveling because of people like you, Charlie, and audiences that you have that are standing firm in their beliefs, and they're not complying with this nonsense that we face. And it is definitely that non-compliance is definitely happening here in the United States of America. And people are going to stand their ground. They're going to stand firm. So the reset crowd is going to move it. They're going to speed it up. And they're going to speed it up. And where they speed it up is not just in the health crisis that they're going to continue to create, but they're going to speed it up in the financial reset. So the financial reset is part of the global reset. And, and I know you and I have had this conversation. And when we do get to these reawaken events, I mean, because they're episodic events. We have tried to have, this is our 20th, I think, in Nashville, but they're episodic. But what we are doing is we are bringing truth. We're bringing resources. We're bringing talented people. We're bringing knowledgeable experts. And we're giving people options for what they can do and where they can go to find either information or to actually take action. And that's really one of the benefits, one of the beauties of our Reawaken America events. And I do know that we do get a large international audience that watches those live streaming, because everybody around the world has a different set of rules and regulations and policies and laws and constitutions that they have to follow, or dictators, if you will, or kings, monarchs, if you will. Here in this country, inside of our DNA, we still have this notion of freedom. And freedom is something that is very, very hard to remove from the DNA of America. And the wisdom of our founders, who gave us our First Amendment, which has really 5 components, faith being the number 1 component. They were smart enough to say, well, what's number 2 going to be? Well, number 2 is going to be the freedom to have our arms, right? To arm ourselves, to be able to protect ourselves against the theft of those First Amendment rights by a tyrannical, overreaching government, which is what we currently have. So I'll get off my soapbox, but I appreciate what it is that we are up against, and what we have in our own abilities here, Charlie, to be able to fight this and defeat it and win.
Yeah, there's the very important point from my point on what's happening right now is a lot of people are completely oblivious to the fact that when Uncle Joe, your resident, fell out with Russia, Russia decided to go and do business with China, with China's own digital currency. Now, China's digital currency was gold-backed. Exactly. So Russia and China decided to negotiate on oil with a gold-backed currency. And then India went, hang on, we'll go as well. Just so that people realize, India and China, 1.5 billion in each country. That's 3 billion people. Just in India and China. Russia added to that, Brazil added to that, South Africa added to that, takes it up considerably. And they're known as the group of BRICS. Now, this is where America is not seeing, because media are not covering this. Right. Along with BRICS, there are countries that have already joined the BRICS group. Egypt has joined them. Afghanistan has joined them. Algeria, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Nicaragua, Nigeria, Senegal, Thailand, the United Arab Emirates, Argentina, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Zimbabwe, Iraq, and interestingly enough, the United Kingdom. And the United Kingdom is going to back its currency by sterling silver, going back to what it was before. Right. Now, they've already done this, but nothing in media. Now, there's a list of countries that have applied but not yet been integrated. Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Panama, Bolivia, Chile, Cuba, Ecuador, Peru, Uruguay, Venezuela, Azerbaijan, Mongolia, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Turkey, and the fun one, Germany. The fact that Germany has applied tells me that the European Union's days are completely over. Because if the Germans are leaving the EU, there was only the Germans and the British that were putting in. The rest were taking out. Exactly.
So let's talk about this because, number one, just the BRICS alone, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, represents about 47% of Correct. The world, of the Correct. Population. I mean, you mentioned China and India. Yeah. It's incredible. So we're looking at almost damn near half the world population just in those 5 countries. Now, very, very quick history lesson. In 2000 and, the second Obama administration, Obama, through, via the United States of America, because of him being in the president, allowed China into the World Bank.
Yeah.
Okay? Because China, you have to meet certain criteria and you have to have certain resources to be able to even be a member of it. Because it is a bank of unelected bureaucrats, but it is a bank that does manage and monitor global conditions, the global financial conditions. So Obama allows the China into the World Bank, and suddenly the rise of BRICS is created. You bring in all those other countries that you mentioned, Charlie, and now we're talking about 75%, and I'm probably underestimating a bit, of the global population. And then you start talking about other some other English-speaking nations, as well as a financial powerhouse of Germany, right? And you bring those together and you say, okay, well, what the heck is going on? Why are we moving in this direction? And where does the U.S. stand? When we start to talk about gold and, the tonnage of gold, gold bonds, and, people that invest in gold paper, they're investing in toilet paper, actually. If you invest in actual gold and actual silver, then you're better off. When you look at countries like China and others, I mean, there's some others, Saudi Arabia you mentioned, but all these others, you start to look at where our gold resources, particularly gold, but silver as well, where they are physically being brought into. And now we're into the tonnage. This is not, a couple of ounces or a couple of pounds. These are tons and tons of gold resources, particularly gold resources and silver resources, because that's what nations know they must have as we go through this and get ready for this financial reset. Now, it is going to happen. It's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
What the United States of America must be able to do is we're going to have to sort of look back and look at our own resources, because when we start having our own markets, our own institutions, our own resources bought up by particularly China. I mean, we have a large amount of resources, particularly gold, or backed by gold, backed by American physical gold for some of the things that we've done because of our own debt. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. So, from the perspective of just individuals' finances, individuals' wealth, people need to really understand that this is moving. So you're going to have to hedge, right? Hedge is a word that they use in the financial where you're going to have to hedge what you have. And like I said, if you're invested in paper, gold or paper silver, what those commodity buyers are doing is they're just buying and selling that paper. It's like from this latest disaster, natural disaster we just had here in Florida, which is where I'm at, Hurricane Ian. 15 insurance companies have gone under because people pay money to them. They pay money to those insurance companies. They go and invest. The next thing you know, you have a disaster, which is a gamble for them. And people are going, hey, we're looking at a $75 billion to $100 billion payoff for this hurricane that we had in this cyclone, this typhoon we had in Florida, and they can't pay it. So 15 insurance companies go out of business, and lo and behold, people are stuck with no home. So all of these things matter, all these details matter, Charlie. And I think that we're going into a period of time right now where the Great Reset crowd is going to speed up the financial reset, because it is a big part of the Great Reset, where, as we know, Klaus Schwab says, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
He doesn't finish that statement off and say, I'll own everything and be even happier.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, but we also owe a debt of gratitude to President Donald Trump, because if it wasn't for him, there would be no gold in Fort Knox at all. It was empty when he took office. I mean, everything had been sold cheap.
Right. And the same with oil. I mean, I appreciate you bringing that up. Exactly. He filled the coffers of America back up with not only gold, but also liquid gold, right? Because petrodollars is another component in the United States of America. He took our strategic reserve and filled it back up. This guy, Uncle Joe, has depleted that reserve. And that's a wartime reserve, really, when you think about it.
And I must thank you publicly for getting me an invitation to Mar-a-Lago, because it was you that managed to sort that out for me. I really appreciate it. It was a beautiful real experience. Oh,
it is. It's a home of the President of the United States, obviously, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful place. And when you go there, you see the magnificence of it. You can sometimes Trump will just be sitting around eating lunch there or walking around. It's his home. And when you do get a chance to meet him, he's a very gracious, very switched on guy. Everything that we've been talking about, I know he is very fully aware of it all. And he's going to fight. He's going, as he says, America First is a governing philosophy. It is not something that is a nationalist, like they try to paint him into a corner. Because if America thrives, the rest of the world thrives. And America has still has a great capacity for innovation, has a great capacity because of the people that we have. Freedom allows innovation, and that innovation creates things. And it's not just creating wealth; it's creating all kinds of other opportunities. And that's what sort of the America First philosophy, governing philosophy, is all about. And so if Donald Trump he's revived that, he's renewed that, because America First as a governing philosophy has been around for a long time. What Americans love is they love his bumper sticker, "Make America Great Again," right? How can you not feel good about that, right?
Exactly.
So,
I was on a flight the other day, and there wasn't a lot to do, and I watched a documentary about John McEnroe, who was brought up in New York, and it gave me an insight into Donald Trump as to how hard it is to actually survive and be successful in New York, a very competitive city. For business and for sport and for everything. And of course, there's a lot of people out there that criticize him, but to take down what the work that he's doing right now in taking down evil It needs a real man, and like yourself as well, a real man to stand up against these people who've absolutely thrown everything at you and him and me and many other truth seekers and patriots. And the generation of young men nowadays that's coming through.
They dress like women, and they want to go into a girls' locker room, and they want to swim or run or jump or compete against, people that are, half their size, a third their weight.
Yes.
And pretend like, it's okay. I mean, this idea of transgenderism. I would just say that you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right that we need champions, Charlie. We need champions. You're a champion. Donald Trump is certainly a champion. One of the things that we do with our platforms, I think, and one of the things that we can do and have been doing, and you've been exceptional about this, is exposing these people, exposing the lies, exposing the deception, and raising the truth to the level that it needs to be at, which it always comes out. It doesn't matter, and I've always said this, and I don't know where I got it or if just came to me one night in a dream, but the truth fears no enemies, because it's like if God is the truth, then that's why I believe that. I believe that the truth fears no enemies, because clearly God fears no enemies. But has enemies. We all have enemies. The truth has enemies, and the enemies are lies. The enemy of evil is good, and we want to make sure that we take good and take it to another level. And but it doesn't mean that, well, I'm going to be good and I'm going to be compassionate and I'm going to try to hug you. I mean, if you need a slap in the head or a knock across the noggin, we need to do that too. We need to be prepared to do that too. And sort of metaphorically, right? That there has to be a discipline to those who think that everything can be a godless society, a soulless society, a darkness in our system, because there's only a few people that benefit. There's only a few people that benefit from those types of societies, and that's this globalist elite, because the rest of us, Charlie, will become slaves. So I want to, if you don't mind, I want to take a minute, because I'm going to shamelessly plug my book. But
please do. Please do.
It's called The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare, and people can find it at my website, generalflynn.com, generalflynn.com, or they can go to Barnes and Noble and purchase it. On my website, you can go, it'll take you to Barnes and Noble. But the whole reason why myself and this great young Sergeant Boone Cutler, who I know, who was a psychological operations specialist in the United States Army, and we fought together in Iraq. And I've been involved, of course, in the intelligence business and in the world of information and information operations. And what we are, so we define in warfare, we define generations of warfare. The first generation was really, it was the club over the head, right? It was the spears across the field. And then, you migrate over the development of gunpowder and machine guns and tanks and planes to nuclear weapons. And then you now enter this new phase, or this new framework of war, and that's called fifth generation warfare. And that's a combination of hybrid, irregular, unrestricted. And the Chinese are actually masters at this. The Chinese literally wrote the book on unrestricted warfare. It was published in about 1998 timeframe. I had the privilege, actually, while I attended the United States Navy War College, of meeting the two authors, because they brought them over to the United States to talk about it. At the time, there was a lot of détente still happening because of the end of the Cold War. So I listened to these two, and I read it. I understand it. So where we are today, we are in this war of narratives, and that's what we try to lay out in here. And actually, people can look at it. If you just physically look at it, we designed it like a military field manual. And when you go through it, I actually created, and in fact, one of the things we did, because when we looked at military field manuals, which myself and the author have a lot of time for, what we did was we don't have chapters in this, Charlie. We have sections, and it's really easy to highlight. It's easy to go through. It's easy to go back. But one of the things that we did was, at the end of every major section, we gave the reader a test. And some of the questions take you back into the chapter to make you rethink about what you read, but also ask you about things that you have experienced in your own life that dealt with what we just taught you.
Mhm.
And what it does, and it is an absolute bombshell bestseller right now, because we just really, because of glitches in the internet and all this sort of stuff, we probably in the last week, it is now open to the international audience. So international audiences can now come into the system and purchase it. We were actually being blocked by Amazon for a while. We were blocked by Barnes and Noble, but Barnes and Noble saw it as it was a moneymaker for them. So it was a business endeavor. Amazon has not allowed us to come back, but people are now reselling on Amazon. But they're reselling it like $60, $65. Go to Barnes and Noble if you want the cheapest price, but it's open to the international audience. So fifth generation warfare is what exactly, it's like elements of COVID, right? COVID was this mass psychosis, and that we were put through. And then there was a physical component, because even in fifth generation warfare, there are physical components that we must understand. So you have Chinese introduction of fentanyl for years now, decades, into the United States. That's called chemical warfare. You have the advent of this biological weapon called the vaccine. That's called chemical warfare. And then you have the narrative from the woke corporations, from these woke governments, from the woke media, the global media, and they're continuing to reinforce these lies and these deceptions. So all of that are things that we talk about in this book. The main component of it at the end, though, Charlie, is the call to action. How do we overcome this? Because this is not a war of neighbor against neighbor or family member against family member. It is a war against, really, and you hit on it, Charlie, it's a war against good versus evil. And I think that's where we want, us writing this, want people to understand what it is, because this is what we are in. We are in fifth generation warfare right now. So I appreciate the time today, Charlie, and we'll do this again, because I do want to talk about, I want to talk about Ukraine.
Yep.
I want to talk about China.
Yep.
I want to talk about Iran and what Israel has recently done.
Yep.
There are foreign policy issues unfolding around the world, and they are all related to exactly what it is that we're doing. And one of the things that I definitely appreciate you raising today is this issue of the financial reset and the BRICS plus. It used to just be those 5 nations. Now it's damn near the entirety of the planet, minus a few countries, one of which still is the United States. But I believe that there are those inside of our government that are quietly moving us towards this reset.
How are you placed tomorrow in 24 hours time? Because we've got the Insiders Club. Or are you busy?
Wow. Let me look at it, Charlie, because I have to run. I'm actually, I have to run to a tour that I'm about to get of a ballpark that we're looking at for a large event here in the fall, which you will receive an invite to here in Florida. And so I got to run there. They are able to open it up for me this morning.
Okay.
So I apologize. I can't stay much longer.
No, that's fine. But if not,
let me come back to you, Charlie.
Yeah.
Let me come back to you. And you know my Melissa?
Yes.
And, ping her and we'll go from there. Okay.